And I am going to, let's see. Can you see the full slide presentation view? Okay, great. All right. So again, thanks for joining everyone. This is our second advisory committee meeting of this year. The intent is to review our report, our end of year report for this past fiscal year. And I'll just go over a couple of the highlights and then I'll send out the report to you as well so you have it for your records. We'll also discuss the projects that we have completed this so far this biennium, which started on July 1st, 2025. And then we'll be talking about some of the projects that we are working on for the remainder of this year. And then I also wanted to just give an update on the Oregon House Bill 3991 and how it impacts CAT and the statewide transportation improvement funds that we receive. All right. So first things first. So for fiscal year 2025, which was July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, we expanded our dial-a-ride service in 2024 so that dial-a-ride could go into the Upper Valley and pick up riders when in the past we had not been able to do that. In December 2024, our Upper Valley service was reduced to 4 trips per day. And one of the reasons why we expanded that dial-a-ride service area was to recognize that folks, because they wouldn't have as much access to the Upper Valley, they could use dial-a-ride if availability existed. In July 2024, 2 new stops were added on the Hood River City route. The Hood River Connect service was canceled in the fall of 2024 due to low ridership. And due to funding concerns in the spring and summer of 2025, the Columbia Gorge Express stayed at 7 trips per day rather than going up to 9 trips. And Gisela, go ahead.
Sorry, it looks like we're not seeing any of your slides changing.
Okay, thank you for letting me know.
Um,
We'll do this again. Let's see. All right. Does it say review of STIF fiscal year report?
yep,
Or are you getting my presenter view?
we're looking at your presenter view now. Yeah,
Okay, well,
actually, no.
We see
I'm
the slide.
sorry.
We see
We're
the
you
we're
see
slide.
seeing the
slide.
actual slide. Yeah, sorry,
Okay,
not your
great.
presenter view.
Fabulous. Okay, so yeah, so due to funding concerns, the Columbia Gorge Express stayed at 7 trips per day, rather than going up to our typical 9 trips per day, that we typically do in the spring and summer. Uh, all right. So for ridership, our ridership continues to increase in general year over year. We did have a fairly big decrease on the Upper Valley, but that was due to several reasons. We kept on reducing that service we reduced it at the beginning, it was 7 trips and it went all the way down to 4 trips per day. And then there was just a lack of ridership with that service in general, which is why we have made some changes to it this year, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. But the Hood River City route and the Columbia Gorge Express route continue to have healthy growth that is very promising to see. All right. And if you have any questions at any time, go ahead and jump in and ask away. So for mobility services, we did for our student passes, we did change how we allow people to pick them up. They used to only be able to pick them up at their school. They can now pick them up at CAT with a guardian and student ID. We expanded the summer youth reward program. We did remove the van pool program as there was nobody implemented the program, and due to funding, we needed to allocate that funding elsewhere. We did distribute 216 less low-income or student passes, but we did do 7 more outreach events in 2025 than we did in in fiscal year 2025 than we did in the previous fiscal year. And our social media engagement also increased. And Sarah, if you would, I'm completely putting you on the spot, but do you mind maybe adding anything else that you would like the committee to be aware of things that you have accomplished this past fiscal year?
Well, I have to say our youth writing program in Hood River went it went really, really well compared to Wasco County. Hood River children and their parents want to get the kids out. So our Hood River summer writing program went really well, and parents are asking for it for next year. So excited to bring that back. And as for passes, you know, I I'm surprised that we gave out a little less. But it seems like in the last month alone, I've already dropped off more passes to the high school, at least 100 in the last 8 weeks, in addition to what they started with. And so I feel like the word's getting out there. And when the Gorge to Mountain bus starts, I think we'll see a great uptick of those requests. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any questions on that? For capital projects, we did purchase and receive 2 new 40-foot vehicles. I believe it's 35 passengers and 2 ADA spots. So these are for our Columbia Gorge Express route. And unfortunately, right now, one of them is down, but other than that, they've been received really well. They have a internal stop announcement system, and they have great AC, and they're a little bit quieter than the old ones. So those are all improvements there.
Amy, I just have to interject. I've ridden the new buses several times the last couple months, and the lighting and the scrolling sign announcing the stops is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. And we're actually rolling that out on our 2 new buses that we just received last week that will be used on the Hood River City route and our Upper Valley route as well. So you'll see it more and more on our new buses. So it's really exciting. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to go back to that one more time and just give you a pretty picture to look at. The reason why those internal announcements are so important, they're important for several reasons. That we're required to have some sort of announcement to meet ADA requirements. And in the past, without an internal system that announces the stops, the drivers have been required to do it. And of course, there's sometimes where it doesn't happen all the time. And so this is really great just for our riders in general, for accessibility, but also for our drivers to reduce one less thing they have to remember to do. Okay. And then for Project 4, which that was program reserve funds, I did want to make sure you were all aware that we used all of those program reserve funds that were available in order to maintain operations. And that's just an example of how costs continue to rise, and the funding that we have, at least the past biennium, it didn't necessarily meet all the needs, which is why you all, in conjunction with staff, worked hard to make sure that the biennium that we're currently in, there was funds in the appropriate spots to ensure that we could really maintain operations. That is the primary project that we have now. Great. Okay, so now we move on to our completed projects of this current biennium and what we have done. And it's been really, really, really busy. And a lot of these things we've already talked about at the past advisory meetings, but they have now been implemented. So as you remember, we had talked about how the Hood River City route was going to be changing, and we were removing some stops and relocating several stops as well. We have, it happened September 13th. The Walmart stop was removed, the Safeway stop was removed, meaning they were removed from the parking lots, and now the Walmart stop has been moved to Wasco. So people can still access Walmart, but they have to either walk down the steps to Walmart, or they have to go on the walkway that goes around, goes on Cascade, and then it goes down into the Walmart parking lot. I have received a couple complaints regarding to that, but overall, in general, I think the comments and feedback I've received is removing Walmart and Safeway. They have reduced the length of the service quite a bit, and drivers appreciate not having to go into those parking lots for safety reasons. The other thing to be aware of is that with that Safeway move, there is now a lot more shopping carts and probably trash that gets left at it's the Cascade Eye Center, because people are bringing carts with all their grocery cart or with their groceries to the the new bus stop that is available for people who are trying to go to Safeway. I have a couple ideas for that. One is when we install our permanent infrastructure at that bus stop, I am planning on making that or the hope is to make that a bus stop with a shelter and seating and a trash can, so we can reduce some of that. And then there's the potential that we can work with the owners of that shopping mall to see if there's maybe something we can do about the shopping carts. But that issue seems to have resolved itself a little bit more. I think people are just taking more care. People who are to return the shopping carts, but still something for us to be aware of. We also removed the 8th and Portway stop and instead put it at 2nd and Portway over by the waterfront. That has received a lot of good positive feedback. And the drivers are really appreciative of taking the 4th Street and Library stop. It used to be they'd essentially be parking in or stopping in an intersection, and now we have removed some parking, and the bus stop now lives there, so there's a pull-out bus stop, and they really appreciate that, as do our riders. So Kevin, I know that was a hard change, but the community appreciates that. It was a good change. Any questions on the Hood River City route improvements or the after the fact? Okay. And then the other big change we did on the same day was that Upper Valley deviated fixed route was transitioned into a fixed route. That service so it's still 4 trips a day, and we have retained the bus stops that we had on the Upper Valley deviated fixed route. You can see there's a couple of the stops. Mainly they were in Hood River, one was in Odell, and one was in Parkdale. We also allow flag stops on that route, so that is helping us to kind of understand where people are going to want the bus stops in the future, in addition to all the research that we have done. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that also, I mean, Sarah, you can chat and chime in a little bit more about what you've heard from writers on this one. But generally, I have not heard negative feedback. I think it is going to take time to see how this does impact the community and how many people start writing this. We have the ridership did dip down once we made this change, but I am starting to see it trickle back up. But again, I think it's going to take some time to see um, how that goes. Sarah, would you like to add anything?
Just the um, feedback I've heard is generally weekend service, is adding weekend service, and then that and longer and a stop in the middle of the day. But we've heard those comments before, and I've explained that's just funding, and we're working on it. So,
Sorry, the copier is working behind me and it's quite loud. I'm not sure how much you're hearing that, but okay. All right. So next is our dial-a-ride service enhancements that we have been working on. So with our dial-a-ride, we expanded our service area and we have also expanded our capacity. And we have done that mostly with new dispatch technology called Spare. So they really excel at being able to mingle rides when appropriate. And we have also added another dial-a-ride driver. So we have two dial-a-ride drivers operating the majority of the time, Monday through Friday. It's not a true 100% add of capacity just because we'll use that second driver to cover the break of the first driver, and they kind of start at varied times. But we do have access in general to two dial-a-ride drivers Monday through Friday. And the dispatch technology allows us to be as efficient as possible. We have also added a app, so riders who would like to use an app, they can book their ride through there, and they can do same day if there is availability. And Kate, maybe I could put you on the spot a little bit if possible. And um, has your clients shared about any of their experiences with using the new technology or um, getting
They
access?
have not used the new technology. I haven't introduced it to them. I think I need to one-on-one. I would say 50% of them do have smartphones. Whether or not they can use them, it's tricky. But I think I will introduce it to them soon. I know that I talked with Sarah too about having another January meeting where we revisit all the cat services, and so then I can set up a time. But overall, dial-a-ride's been great for everybody. If everybody's, or if I would say 80% are happy 80% of the time, we're doing good. And so far, that's happening.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Yeah, and the app is in no way required. We still obviously provide all of our services over the phone. But we have noticed that some users have started to use it to just even track their bus and get to know, when their bus is going to be coming. And overall, that does help us because if they're ready when the bus is there, then that allows us to be quicker too. Um,
Amy,
yeah.
I hear right now it's just word of mouth. Are we planning on advertising it to the general public yet?
Yes, we need to create a little bit more of a marketing plan to do that. And we'll be doing that more, or we'll be focusing on that in the new year. But yes, we were initially it was just a soft launch. We weren't really sure how much to push it, and really a lot of people have just found it very organically. Um, and I think that's good. And my hesitation for pushing it is we were already basically at capacity. So I was a little nervous about if more people have access to the app, if that will just make it so our folks who really need it aren't able to use it. But I think that we can push it and just be very intentional with how we deliver it. And I mean, really, it's a great availability, or it's a great um, service for the community, and they should know about it. So, good question, Sarah. Uh, Before I move on to upcoming projects, any questions on what we've done so far this quarter? All right. So upcoming projects, we are working with the city's Public Works Department to reduce some bike bus conflict mitigation at our 18th and May Street bus stop. We are going to be adding thermoplastics, shown here in the picture, to make sure that people understand that the bus is there and they should be yielding to the bus when it is there. And then our bus drivers do stop in lane, and then if they need to deploy a ramp, they will deploy the ramp and block off the bike lane. And this we did in conjunction with our board member, Megan Ramey, who is also the Safe Routes to School coordinator. Okay. We will be adding additional bus stops on the Upper Valley route. Our first one is going to be the bus stops going south and north at Mount Hood Town Hall. Oh, so one is going to go in front of the butcher block, or the butcher business, and the other will go in front of the fire station, or nearby the fire station. Those we are hoping to launch by the end of the year, but we are waiting on some approvals for temporary signage from ODOT. And then I think the next ones after that we're going to be focusing on a lot is the stop, or the proposed stop in front of Fish Food Bank. Right now that is a flag stop and people are using it, but my hope is to put a formalized stop there. And then the other area of note is by the Windmaster intersection. We are starting to see, well, our intent is for high school students, if possible, to use that intersection to do a flag down stop until we can put some official bus stops there. So Sarah's been doing some work with some teachers to teach kids how to use the flag stop feature and where to stop at that intersection, so that we can make it as safe as possible. But that is another one of my long-term goals. I'm hoping that we can add an official bus stop in that intersection, to help encourage kids who need an additional option of how to get to and from school to school for school, or for after school events. Sarah, do you want to add anything about your experience with travel training?
Yeah, so the special learning class at the high school reached out, and we're going to be looking at um, some field trips for some life skill excursions from them, and it'll be a combination of using the fixed route and dial a ride because of the times, but then also in talking to the students and pointing out the times that the bus, because it is a flag stop area, the bus comes by, and noting that walking from Wham is a lot closer than walking from the Heights or walking from Odell Market. So, and pointing out that all our buses are bike capable, so they can combine that walk and make it a ride and get to school a little faster. And the times work really well with after school practice and getting there before school starts. So I can't wait to see a stop get in there.
All right. And then within the next year, we are focusing on permanent bus stop infrastructure on Hood River City Route. So we have about, I don't know, almost 10 temporary bus stops right now on our Hood River City Route. Uh, It'll be about 8 of them that we will be transferring to permanent. And the reason why we won't be making all of our temporary bus stops into permanent is because a couple of them with the Heights streetscape changes, they will be changed. So I'm holding off on making those permanent for that reason. But the ones that we're going to focus on is the one near Walmart, the one near Safeway, the one at 22nd Street in Montello, the one on May Street and 18th Street, the one at Pacific Ave at Walgreens, the one at 8th Street in Cedar Crop, and the one at State Street and 4th Street, and the one at Cascade Ave and 5th Street. And they will all look a little different. A couple of those I am hoping to add shelters. For example, the one at 20th Street and Cascade Avenue, as well as the one at 8th and Cedar Crop. But they will all include a sign and some sort of seating. Any questions on this? Yeah.
Amy, can I jump in?
Yes.
Since the route changes started there in mid-September, I'm wondering specifically about the 22nd and Montello. Any negative feedback from neighbors? Everything as we anticipate adding a permanent shelter or other facilities. Any concerns from neighbors? Things going okay?
Yeah, the one concern we've heard is, and it actually the temporary stop got adjusted a little bit, because one of the neighbors didn't want it to be so close to their tree because they thought that it would encourage people to sit on their property during the summer, while they're waiting for the bus. So I think what will likely happen is we'll just adjust the placement of the sign a tad and working with the Public Works Department on that. And then adding a semi-seat or some sort of seating there. But the other thing that's going to be a little tricky about all of these different stops is how we address them, because some of them are in the right of way, and there's room on the right of way to add some seating and a sign or a shelter, but some of them do not. So we'll have to be working with the private parties. So I know we'll need to work with the private party at 8th and Seaver Crop and the one at Pacific Ave and Walgreens. 8th and Seaver Crop, that's where Aaron's place is. And I've had general conversations with them. And so I think that's likely probably not going to be a problem. The Pacific Ave and Walgreens, I am expecting more of a challenge with figuring out how to do that one.
Because of concerns of neighbors or other issues?
Yeah, there's a very little right of way available.
Just okay, got it. And having to work with the owner of the commercial property to get an easement or something. Okay.
Yeah, and based on my previous experiences with that owner, he is not very pro-transit.
Okay, understood. Helpful to be aware of that, in the event that there is some kind of land use action at the mall. Maybe we can, work with the property owner and try to assist with that. But I haven't heard of any big changes coming up there, but I'll just keep that in mind. And thanks for the feedback on 22nd and Montello. And forgive me, I hadn't thought about potential conflicts at 8th and Seaver Crop, but thanks for the heads up there. Any other kind of concerns expressed from adjacent property owners? I'm not anticipating any, but thought I'd better just ask.
Yeah, I think the other ones to be aware of, State Street and 4th Street. I think that's still a little up in the air with what development actually occurs at the old Hood River News building.
Sure. Yeah, more to come on that. Stay tuned. Yes.
Okay, great. And then the Cascade Ave and 5th Street, the business owner that's right next to the stop, he's had lots of concerns in the past. I think if we're adding a permanent bus stop, it's not going to be, we're just going to add the sign because there is seating that is located nearby. So I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of concern from them, but we'll likely probably hear something.
Sure. I've used that seating area in the summertime just to get under the shade of a tree. So
Yeah.
seems like a good spot in there for folks. And anyway, let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Yeah, thank you. And I think those are the big ones. Appreciate it. Okay, so then the next big projects that we're working on, and again, I know I've talked about these a lot, but we do have some updates, so I wanted to make sure you guys were aware. So we are working with the Port of Hood River on an interregional transit hub that'll be located on the waterfront um, area over by the event site in Lot 1. We don't have a final location nailed down quite yet, but we have finalized an IGA with the port for the development of this. So in the next quarter or so, I expect us to be able to release a RFP for a consultant that can start design work up to 30%, and get us started on this project. So that's pretty exciting. Um, the other um, one that will also be included in that RFP, so we're looking for a consultant that's going to be able to help us with all of our big capital projects that we're going to be working on. But we purchased this lot that is across the street from the CAT Transit Center for our new park and ride. And once we are able to develop this as a new park and ride, we're going to be able to start redeveloping our current park and ride into a large bus barn and maintenance facility. And it's my hope is that we can get started on this park and ride maybe this next summer, but it's probably going to be the summer of 2027 would be my guess. But this is probably the biggest priority of all of our construction projects, as it will allow us to get started on the redevelopment of the bus barn. And that's going to be a really big project because there is a sewer that is underneath there that has to be relocated. So I'm working with the city. I met with Public Works yesterday, just trying to make sure all the partners are on the same page, and we're all kind of aware of what's happening with that piece of property. Um, so this park and ride is really going to be important so that we can start addressing the redevelopment of the old park and ride.
I mean, when you're ready to go over kind of land use process on those, maybe we can combine them. Maybe there's a way to expedite this by reviewing everything at the same time.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Okay. When would be a good time to connect with you? Should I connect
Just,
when?
I mean, anytime you feel like you're ready to discuss things, if you're really realistically, if you're not thinking that you're able to break ground on a project until summer of 27, doesn't seem like there's any hurry. But as soon as you want to, let me know.
Okay, that sounds good. Would it be helpful to have are my consultants in place, or is it not really as dependent on that?
I guess it depends on if you think that your consulting team is going to be running not only preparation of plans, but also putting together a development application. If you were going to do that, happy to discuss it with you. If you want to, if you think that the consultant will be putting that together, I'm happy to work with them.
Okay. Yeah, we'll probably connect with you once we have a consultant. That is my hope, is to include a project management aspect for these projects for the consultant, because we just don't necessarily have all the resources in-house for that.
Understood. Okay, thanks, Amy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I want to make sure you guys are all aware of is the special session transportation funding bill, which was House Bill 3991. And what it did is it allowed for funding to maintain and support our state highways, local roads, and public transportation. So the intent of it was to keep ODOT whole and also make sure that cities and counties had enough money to maintain our highways and our roads in general. It also included a 0.01% increase for transit that would expire January 1st, 2028. So it's essentially doubling what we receive in STIF dollars, which would be amazing. It allows me to focus on some of our capital projects and to move them along a little bit faster than if we didn't have those funds. However, my understanding is there are enough signatures that have been collected to refer this bill to the voters next November. So, what that means is that we will not be receiving an increase in STIF tax funding until this has been voted on by the voters. That is something I think it's important for everybody to know because it means that we won't be able to spend the money, and the tax increases won't necessarily go into effect. Now, that's not for the whole of the bill. That's just for a couple portions of the tax increases. And it also means that a lot of our services are in jeopardy in 2028, including our mobility management programs and weekend services. So we are working on how to communicate that to our community. We have to be careful, very careful on how we communicate this. But it is important to know that it will impact transit services without these funds.
Me real quick, just to double, make sure I understand this. So we're looking at likely a ballot measure in November of 26. And
Yep,
until that occurs, any additional funds that were made available through House Bill 3991 won't be dispersed. And
correct.
then as far as reducing mobility management and weekend services in 2028, you think that's a result of voters clawing back the funds that were allocated through 3991, or even if they don't claw back?
That's only if they claw. Well, it's actually both. Because these funds are expected to sunset, the likelihood is if those funds don't continue or happen at all, we will need to claw back on services. There will not be enough transportation funding to continue all our programs and services as of now. Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, yeah. And understand that maybe the challenge in messaging is you, as a service district, can't advocate one way or another for a ballot measure. And so need to warn people that there may be some changes coming, but not advocating against the way people vote on uh, the issue. Got it.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for that very eloquent way of saying that. Yes. So we can only communicate the facts. And the facts is even before this funding was announced, and if it doesn't happen, we were looking at service cuts in 2028, which was much better than a lot of other transit agencies. A lot of other transit agencies around the state have had to make service cuts now because they're running in the deficit. Luckily, my projection is that we will be able to continue with our depending on inflation and the cost increase of costs, it may become a little earlier than that. For an example, just like a lot of people, our health insurance increased by 12%. In the past, it's been around 9%. And that hurts. Also, our vehicle insurance is going up about $10,000. And so all of those things, it adds up. And our funding is not, and this is just the way that transportation funding goes, it's not necessarily, it doesn't increase, it just kind of stays static. And that's the problem that a lot of transit agencies are encountering. All right. Any other questions on that? Okay. All right. So next steps in spring, we will convene again to go over the status of our projects that I just described. And we will also begin discussing the fiscal year 27 or the 2027 through 2029 biennium projects. And then in the summer of 2026, we will review the fiscal year 2026 end of year report and hopefully be able to approve the next biennium STIF plan as that is due in the fall of 2026. Any questions? All right. That is actually all of my presentation. Any other thoughts that you guys would like to discuss?
Amy, just like to thank you and Sarah for all your work. Thanks for keeping it going despite some headwinds. We appreciate seeing changes to help people use the services, and look forward to working with you to expand facilities. When you get the consultant on board.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to thank you all for your time and give you 17 minutes back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.